You happened to be there. You could have been lackluster, and they would have flung you away and chucked a man in your place, because as you say, it's 49%. It's not even. It's not even. But you see, for women, I think that what this is about us realizing that because we have to work twice as hard to be thought of as half as good, we have to stop waiting to be given the opportunity. We have to take the opportunity. We have to make ourselves the go-to people because we're the best that there is. So, you know, I don't agree that we should wait for that opportunity to be created for us. And when you say it, what you don't say is created for us by the men. Because I'm at a place where, in the National Assembly, for instance, where we have been trying to get the 35% affirmative action bill passed through, and it hasn't worked in 10 years. Every time we christen it something, we bring it in, we've tried to give it to a man to present it, we've tried everything, thrown everything at it, including the kitchen sink, we're still grappling with it. So, you know, I think that what it is that, you know, and this is the narrative we're trying to change. Don't wait to be given the chance. Find a spot and expand it until that space is yours.
So Wonder.org is running a campaign. We know that you're running, you know, what you do is advocacy. When do you think that this conversation on women, do you think it will ever stop?
You know, I think it's been interesting. I love the cultural and today's analogy. I actually differ a little bit because I think women have actually had leadership, bold, out loud leadership positions culturally. I like to go back to the village life, let's say, for our culturally appropriate women positioning. And I was speaking to a policymaker yesterday, and he said the Fulani woman is a very strong maternal head of her community to this day. We know Queen Amina. We know in other cultures in Nigeria where women actually just put their stake in the ground and run things. So what happened between that day and today? How did the conversation change that we've arrived at a situation where we believe, where 4% is pretty abysmal, you know, where we believe that we need to have several conversations about courage and boldness to change our narrative. I think that there might be something to going back to our history and figuring out how we lost our way, because I think women have always been included or have been included in the past, and somehow we have come to a place where we're sort of behind the scenes, as it were. But back to the One campaign, when will that conversation end, was your question. I think never. I think that there'll always be a calibration process. I think the Chinese proverb says women hold up half the sky. Until we have a representation that's equal to a population, I don't think the conversation ends.
So that already gives a target. Until we have a representation that's equal to our population, sets a target.
I guess, but when will we get there? I think we keep speaking, as you say, we keep shouting till it happens. We keep praying till it happens. We keep taking small opportunities and making them count as women till it happens. Because the minute you have a small opportunity and we drop the ball, it gives the world a chance to say, well, you know, we tried to make them lead, see what they did. So I think being, again, twice as good to be looked at as half as good is absolutely right. There is a burden of leadership for women, and there is pressure, but I think we're up to the task. We thrive well.
I know we have a minute to break right now. I'm going to give you, just room enough to talk about why governments should be interested in women development or women in leadership.
Yes, actually, government should be, because if you look at the population now, the population growth, for instance, the women population is growing faster. And there is no way you can lead the country without taking them into cognizance. That's the most important thing. So if you take into cognizance the population growth of women in particular, they should be involved in the process of governance, for instance. Let me give you an example now. By population projection, by the year 2050, Nigeria's population will be 440 million. And
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
By the year 2050,
yes,
Nigeria's population will be 440 million.
440?
Yes, and 75% of such population will be living in northern Nigeria. And this, by extension, is going to tell you that the number of female of that particular 75% population will be greater than that of men. If you didn't involve them in the process of decision making, how will you achieve it? There is no way. So they have to be involved, actually. Secondly, if you look at the way government created an enabling operating environment for them to achieve what they want to achieve. Is, for instance, now, if I myself want to contest the election with you, if I'm going to buy the form at the cost of 2 million naira, your one is free, just to encourage a woman. For instance, in my state now, for instance, for the government to encourage girl child education, which I believe we are coming to it, government go to the extent of discussing adopting President Lula's of Brazil policy of paying parents stipend to send their children to school.
Well, Mr. Babao, I will have to interrupt you, I'm afraid. We have to take a moment now. When we return, we understand that we'll be going to Lagos, where an equally vibrant panel will be waiting, and of course, a lovely audience as well. Do join us again.
There are two stories in Nigeria, which is the fascinating thing, right? Two parallel stories. One of incredibly bold, impactful, tenacious women with such voice and agency who go out there, who feel the fear and do it anyway. And that is extraordinary. And tonight I wanted to celebrate those women. But equally, the Nigerian story is also one of very poor women, some of whom are rather desperate, in refugee camps, struggling to look after their children, or women with no education, or women who suffer from domestic violence or other forms of violence, or little girls who feel hopeless. And those are the women that we need to look after and support and encourage and spend a lot of time talking about. And what I was trying to say this evening is that we have a responsibility to talk about injustice, structural injustices, all the statistics, the facts that demonstrate that we are far from inequality, not just in Nigeria, but everywhere across the world. No single country in the world has reached gender equality. So in Nigeria, there's much more that needs to be done. And as a feminist myself, and someone who's totally committed to promoting the rights of women and girls, it is one of the things I definitely want to prioritize over my time here. And what I've committed to tonight is to make sure that these issues feature across the spectrum of the work that I do while I'm in Nigeria.
We are here to encourage our women and to tell government that maternal mortality is on the rise. 111 women die every year. We are here to say that education, we are lagging behind, and close to 1 million children are out of school. So the government must have enough policy to tackle all those who send their children out. Child abuse is on the rise. Gender-based violence is on the increase. Environment degradation is there. Economic pocket of our women is being depleted as a result of recession. We want to say that if women should be bold for change, they must have access to microcredit scheme. We want to say that the vulnerable groups must be taken care of. We see a lot of destitutes. That women must vote, and government should also realize that 50% of women accounts for the population, and because of the 50% of our women, we want to say that women are underrepresented. Women are underrepresented in decision making.
Being born a woman is nearly a curse and life sentence to exclusion, poverty, illiteracy, and exploitation. Today, nearly 17% of the world's adult population is illiterate. 2/3 of that population are women, making gender equality even harder to achieve. The scale of illiteracy among youth also represents an enormous challenge. An estimated 122 million youth globally are illiterate, of which young women represent 60.7%. 1/3 of girls in developing countries are married before the age of 18, and 1 in 9 are married before the ages of 15. In 2012, 70 million women ages 20 to 24 years around the world have been married before the age of 18. And if this trend continues, 150 million girls will be married before their 18th birthday over the next decade.